everybody's job. So I know this conference is about PowerShell, DevOps, like all sorts of things, but by the end of this, I'm hoping that you feel and you agree with me that security is a part of every single person's job. So like to me, I literally mean it. Like we can't, so us security folks, that's me. We cannot secure your organizations without you. And so I'm going to talk about that today and a lot about DevOps because I love DevOps. But first, well, usually I'm in person. And then I ask, who here codes as part of their job? Some people put their hands up. Who here applies patches? Some people put their hands up. Who here deploys, infrastructure or applications? People put their hands up. Who here does security as part of their job? And usually some people put their hands up. But by the end, I want every single person's hand up because security is a part of every person's job. And so let's get into what we're going to talk about. So we are going to talk about, like I just said, security is part of every person's job. We're going to talk about DevOps. And we're going to talk about security becoming a part of your everyday work. And I mean that like that it's effortless and easy. Maybe not effortless, but less effort than it's previously been, like when we did Waterfall and Agile. And I want to talk about it being more of a pleasure and less of a pain. So let's start. This is a really, really popular slide that a gentleman named Pete Schlegelach made, and he was being sarcastic. He's a very smart dude, but like a lot of security people, especially people who have done security for a very long time and don't come from a software development background, they see, the magical DevOps unicorns create like moving fast and breaking things, and then they feel they have to clean up the mess. But that's not what I see. This is what I see. So my friend François Renaud from DevSecCon, he made this slide. I see the security people teaching the DevOps magical unicorns. I see us equipping them, giving them tools, helping them, and actually, cheering them on as they start making more and more secure products. And so this is how I view DevOps, and there's going to be a lot of positive bias. Because I was a dev for much, much longer than I've done security, and so it's kind of in my blood. So let's go. So who am I? I'm Tanya Janca. We do these slides to try to tell you that we are qualified to give our own talk. So let me tell you a little bit about me. So I am the CEO and founder of We Hack Purple. We do secure coding training, DevSecOps, cloud security, AppSec, all the things. I'm also known as She Hacks Purple. And yes, some of my hair is purple. Purple is a security term. It means I do blue team, which is defense, and red team, which is attacking, and together, as you might have imagined from art class, that is purple. I wrote a book. It's called Alice and Bob Learn Application Security. It's like right there beside me, and it's a book for anyone to learn about how to create secure software. I've worked in tech a really long time. Next summer, I get to change that from 20 plus to 25 years plus, which is exciting. I founded an international nonprofit for women who are interested in security. And I've done like OWASP chapters and all this stuff. I have a podcast and I blog and I do all the things. But mostly I'm a nerd at large on the internet. And so I hope you're like, oh, Tanya seems qualified to give this talk. And you're like, I'm going to tolerate her. Yes! Thank you for tolerating me. Let's do this. So what is application security? So I know a bunch of you are thinking, I'm in the wrong talk. This is level 0. There's going to be 2 minutes of review before we go into newer things. And the reason for that is that some people don't know very much or at all about security. I want us to all speak the same language. So I'm going to set out what I think of these things so you can all come along on the whole ride with me, even if you are a beginner. So what is application security, or AppSec for short? It's any and every single thing that you do to make sure that the software that you are building is secure, right? And that can mean hiring a penetration tester to come in and do a formal engagement. It can mean doing a code review of a pull request and looking and seeing a security thing that you heard about in that secure coding class you took is not there. And you're like, bing, 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 I gotta fix this. It can mean listening to a podcast and hearing about how there's a big vulnerability in a certain programming framework that you use at work. And then you go and you check and you're like, oh, one of our older apps is using that version. Maybe we should upgrade to like just the next minor version to avoid that huge vulnerability that's out there. All of that is you fighting the good fight. And yes, I'm quoting myself because it makes people pay more attention when it's a quote. I know I'm the worst. So a thing you might not know is poor security in software or insecure software is a gigantic problem. So according to the Verizon breach report, I need to add 2020 to this list. Insecure applications, and it's moving towards specifically insecure APIs, is causing 29 to 40% of data breaches. We're the number one cause. Like, check out this awful graph. So I believe that's 2018's graph. That sucks. We're number one by a landslide. I don't want to win this. We don't want to be at the top of this graph. We want to be near the bottom. It's very frustrating for me as a security professional to see us like be at the top of the causing of bad things list each year. So another thing, and a bunch of you probably know this and have felt it, is that application security is not covered in most computer science and software engineering programs. They might cover network security. They might cover IAM, so identity and access management. And that's good. It's extremely important. There's a chance they'll cover authentication and authorization, but they don't cover the whole thing. They don't teach you how to test your app or how to review code or how to make sure you're doing a secure system development lifecycle. They're teaching you how, imagine if in trade school they taught people how to do electricity, but they didn't teach them any safety. And then just sometimes houses burn down. That would not be okay. But that's what we're doing right now, and it's upsetting me. Sometimes I see schools and they say, oh, well, we have a cyber program. And it's vague, and it doesn't cover the security of software, or it covers some things, but not enough so that you can go do the job. And so this is a point of frustration for me professionally, which is why actually I wrote my book, to try to get universities to make courses. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to mention is security is outnumbered. See her? That's me. Whenever I'm like, I am the AppSec team. I'm the whole team. Hi. Because usually there's only one or two people in a giant org trying to secure all the apps. This is a number that I have seen all over the place for a long time, but recently GitHub really published a new thing, and they said it's 500 developers for every one security professional. 500 to 1. I can't even learn all of their names. And that means I can't work harder. It means I have to work smarter. That's what it means. And so Waterfall never worked that well. And the accompanying security model completely, it was so painful. I was a dev, and I remember that. And I remember being told so many things like, hurry up, wait, hurry up, wait. You have to fill out these 5 million forms that no one's going to read about your app, about, just so many things, like code freeze for 3 weeks while this guy reviews your code for security things. No, I have bugs to fix. I am not freezing my code for 3 weeks. Do I get to go on vacation? No, well then I'm going to code. Like, there's so many things that didn't used to work before. And what I want us to move towards is this. DevSecOps. So DevOps, but with application security people helping you ensure that the software you do is secure. So what is DevSecOps? So my friend Imran said this. It's AppSec in a DevOps environment. I'm summarizing. What he really said was, Tanya, it's what we've always done. We are trying to help them release secure products. We just have to adjust what we do. It's what we've always wanted, the same goals, but we just adjust the way we're doing it so it fits in and weaves into their processes. And that's what I want to do. And so during this talk, I am just going to go through the 3 ways of DevOps, the emphasizing the speed of the entire system, fast, accurate feedback to the right people at the right time, and continuous learning, taking time to improve your daily work. And so I'm going to dig in to each one of these and give you just a ton of ideas of how we can add security in ways that are less than painful, so that we can actually make sure that we are releasing software that is safe, that people want to use, and that they can trust. So why do people do DevOps? Like I remember someone saying, oh, like there's this new dev and they want to do this DevOps thing. Like, why would we want to do that? So let's briefly discuss what the DevOps people want and how I believe it is in line with most of what security wants. Like, none of it's against it. So the first goal of DevOps is that they want improved deployment frequency. I don't want to have a huge release once a year. That's a lot of risk, right? Instead, we'll do a whole bunch of little releases. And what I heard, the thing I heard seriously was, oh, you can fix my security emergencies now? Awesome. Great. So that's excellent. Then they said they wanted lower failure rates. They wanted resiliency. That's what they called it. But you know what I thought of immediately? I thought of this. The CIA triad. Confidentiality, integrity, and bing, 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 availability. So if an app is super resilient, it's the A in CIA. It means that the app is available all the time. I'm like, great, awesome. Our goals are completely aligned. This is fantastic. And then faster time to market. And I know you're thinking like, that's not really, doesn't sound like it's a security goal. But the security team does not win if the business doesn't also win. This is a thing I've had to talk with a lot of security professionals about, where they're like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. And I'm like, if the business isn't winning, it's not working. It's not working anymore. And faster time to market means us staying in business and them being able to have a security team and me being employed. And I have to say I like that. And so even though this isn't a security goal, I believe that it is in line with what the security team wants, which is continuing to have jobs. So this is why we do DevOps. And so let's talk about the 3 ways of DevOps for the rest of this talk and how we can fit security nicely into each one of those. So we're not smashing the processes, we are improving and contributing to the value of the whole thing. Okay, so the 3 ways. So the first of the 3 ways is that we must emphasize the speed and efficiency of the entire system. And the unspoken part of that is not just your part. Way back in the day when I was dev, it's awesome. I would just do my part. Sometimes I would code other people's parts because I was impatient. Sometimes I would go help the QA team because, like I said, I'm impatient. But mostly, I would just do my part. I'm like, my part's done on time. All that is a you problem. But with DevOps, it's a me problem or a you problem. It's an us problem. And so this means we have to try to make the whole thing go fast. And sometimes that means me taking time to work with a team on a thing that's not necessarily security, because they're never going to get to my part, or they're not going to have time for my part because this other thing is happening. And so sometimes we call this left to right. So we want to get out to release as fast and often as possible. And so what does this mean for the security team, right? It means that we cannot slow down or break the pipeline unless it's a true emergency. So we have to tune our tools. We have to do better than we traditionally did. So we might be exchanging the traditional AppSec tools that we had and getting new ones. It might mean, for instance, let's say I want to do a dynamic scan. It might mean I work with the QA team. They record HAR files because they have automated testing. I'm taking those, feeding them into my security tools. So I have laser focus on what I'm testing, right? But it means us doing things differently so that we're not breaking the build for no reason and we're not slowing the thing down. It also means us scheduling things differently. Like if the devs are doing sprints, we need to fit our work into their sprints if we want them to get things done like we like them to. right? And so it means us working to improve all the value streams and weaving security into them, but not breaking them. So we have to be more careful, and this means communicating more and actually speaking to other humans, which is not exactly an IT specialty as a skill set. But more importantly, we're at a DevOps conference. So what does this mean for Dev and Ops? It means we need your help and feedback. So if I put a tool in the pipeline and I think it's working well and you think it sucks, I need you to tell me and tell me why and help me work with me as I tune it, I change it, I'm adjusting things, I'm trying to do better and better. I need your feedback to say yeah, that's way better, or that made no difference, or that's worse. If you don't tell me about those things, how can I know? It's not always obvious on our side. I'm not trying to trip you up. We all have the same goal, which is to continue being employed and get raises and promotions. To create excellent software. But I can't do it unless you tell me. I also want to add security bugs to your bug tracker. I want to be where you're looking. And so if there's a security bug and I feel we need to fix it, I want it to go into your backlog where your bugs are and where your work is tracked. Because even though I'm finding the bug, I know that it's your work and your time and effort to fix it. Whenever possible, use templates and code samples that are known to be secure, that have already been trusted and tested. This can mean creating a secure code library, so a section of your code repo with tested samples of things that are already awesome and then reusing them. It means only deploy up-to-date images and containers. And I know that sounds nuts, and of course, it's so obvious, Tanya, everyone does that. Yeah, I wish that was true. I've worked at places where they had a golden image, but it was 3 months old. And I was like, can I scan that with my fancy scanner before you send it as the golden image? And I'll automate it so it scans it every day. So we're always putting out really fresh, good stuff, right? I want to push all the way left. I want to start as soon as possible. So I'm going to have 5 picture slides. So I can't listen and read at the same time. And taking notes and listening is hard too. So I took the notes for you. So all you need to do is take a screenshot of this and you've got your summary of the things I just said. I didn't say the last point, so I'm going to say it, but there's 4 more picture slides like this, just so you know, so be ready. And there's a bunch of free resources at the end, so be ready with your taking of slides, etc. So we want to set up regular automated scans for virtual machines and containers. Even though I want to scan things before they go out, I want to scan things again as they're in production and make sure they're looking good. And I can set that up with your permission, and often I need advice from you, right? And so making that time for the security team so that we can set up the stuff, and then us working together to figure out how we can get those things fixed. So what else does this mean for Dev and Ops? It means we're going to need help tuning our tools. So that could be dynamic, static, software composition analysis. It could be interactive application security testing. It could be a WAF or a RASP. Whatever the security tool is that we're using, we want to tune it so we get better results. We also want to tune it so that we're not making your pipeline run 25 years. So that we're not breaking the build every single time over stuff that's not a problem. And so we really need your help on this. I know I already said it, but I'm saying it again. Another thing is a thing that I've done a couple times, a handful of times, is, so usually we're talking about a release pipeline when we talk about DevOps. But there's also, you could have another pipeline that doesn't release anywhere. So the security team could make a pipeline. So we could add some super laser focused, short, very important, accurate tests to your release pipeline. But we could make another pipeline for you where all it does is long, intense, totally disgustingly long security tests where there's tons of false positives. And then that emails me a report, and then I look through it, on Fridays to see if there's anything specific that I can find that I'm concerned about. And then I make a bug ticket for you. And it doesn't interrupt what you're doing. It runs every Friday. I look at the results Monday. It does not release anything. It doesn't change your code. It doesn't make tickets for you. I manually do that later because this is in-depth long-term testing. And if we create a pipeline like that for you, please let us run it. You can disable it, and it would be hard for us to notice if, we have 400 pipelines and 4 don't run, but please don't do that. Okay, so what else does this mean for dev and ops? So if you are making unit tests, your unit tests are usually positive tests. So a positive test determines that your app works as expected. If an error is encountered during the positive testing, the test fails, right? So you could take a copy of all those awesome unit tests that you have, duplicate it, right? And in that new copy that you've created, you can make negative tests. So it means that your application can gracefully handle garbage input, like payloads, malicious input that it should not be accepting. And we want to make sure that it fails gracefully. And if it does, then it passes. If it crashes, you fail. If it, does an error into into your database, fail. If you do this would be regressive security testing. And that would be absolutely amazing. Like if there's a pen test that happens, here's the photo slide. If there's a pen test that happens, that would be awesome. So there's one bullet at the end here, SCA, that's software composition analysis. Like I would really like it if everyone would scan their code with SCA to check if there are third-party components included within your application. So like NuGet packages, libraries, plugins, your framework, etc. Because there's lots of known vulnerabilities in those. And if we could get out of the known vulnerabilities, like that could really help secure our apps. So the second way of DevOps, fast feedback that is accurate and that goes to the correct person. That is valuable feedback. Feedback that goes nowhere. So I have seen many security tools that no one ever opens them or reads any of the reports. They're running all the scans. They're like, yep, we scan it every day. No one looks at those reports. So that doesn't matter if no one's getting the feedback. Security teams are not in the business of running security tools. We are in the business of trying to make our actual systems, our actual products, and our actual people more secure, safer, more layers of defense, protected. And so feedback that goes nowhere, it just doesn't matter. It's not of value. So often this is called like right to left. And I like to think of this as pushing security left or shifting security left, moving things in the system development lifecycle so it's earlier. So don't just believe me, believe the Ponemon Institute who did this research. I did not do this research, but I did read some of the paper. So they estimate the cost difference to be essentially exponential. So if you find a bug in the coding phase, it's way cheaper to fix than in production. And this number in production is if we, the good guys, find it. If a malicious actor finds it and you have a security incident, that's not on this, because then we'd have to add a whole bunch of logarithms and stuff to make that number gigantor. So it is way cheaper for us to get this feedback to you sooner and have you fix bugs sooner rather than later. And I truly believe in this. Like I have experienced this. Like me just attending a project kickoff meeting and reviewing the requirements and saying, hey, can we add these requirements? And then it's designed in from the start. And then I don't find that bug later when I'm testing it. I have seen how well this works. And so shifting left, that's what it means for us security folks. It means that we need to get information to you as quickly as possible. And for me, as like a person that teaches AppSec, I want to have you do requirements, like have security requirements that are part of every project. If you're doing an API, I have like security requirements for APIs, for serverless, etc. During design, I want to threat model that design with you, just like a half-hour conversation about what could go wrong and what we're doing about it. I want to just whiteboard it out and say like, is there encryption there? Are you doing authentication and authorization there, or are you just trusting them? Because you know we don't trust anyone, right? Simple conversations at the beginning can save you so much money and time at the end. And so that means the security people showing up earlier. And how do we do that? You invite us, because we don't know what you're working on. So you invite us and we actually show up and help. So what does this mean for Dev and Ops? Please tell us what's going on. Please give us feedback. Please tell us if there is something that you are concerned about. And that can mean you're like, my team's doing this. I think that's a bad security decision. Here's why. Like, can you help us come up with a better way? It could be, your security tool is making me nuts and I can't do my job. There's like a lot of different ways, but feedback goes both ways. And so we can give you feedback, but we also need you to give us feedback so we know what we're doing. I'm seeing I still have some time, so I'm going to tell you a story. So this is not my story. This is a story of this really awesome human named Travis McPeak from Netflix. And so he was trying to figure out, so I don't know if you've used AWS, but the permissions in there are very complex. Very, very, very complex. I am an Azure person, but there's like hundreds of permissions. And so often devs would just set a whole bunch of extra permissions that they don't need just to get the thing to work, but they didn't actually need them. And so then if one of their apps were attacked, it would have tons of permissions within their AWS cloud. And for obvious reasons, that does not follow the principle of least privilege, and it really was not awesome for the security team. So they developed this app called Repo Man, and it would take away permissions all the time that they thought that people didn't need. Well, that broke a lot of things. And the dev team and the ops team were, that is not cool. Please stop attacking production. We're trying to get work done. Like, you don't want to be the threat as the security team. So they turned it off and they went back to the drawing board. And they came up with Repo Kid. And what Repo Kid does is, so whenever someone releases like a brand new app instance, it watches it to see if it calls any of those permissions. And if it doesn't, then it like takes it away for a bit. Does it still work? Monitors, make sure it's okay. And then eventually the permission's just gone permanently. And they removed something absolutely insane, like over 80% of all their permissions in the AWS cloud. It went so well that there's now a whole bunch of companies that make products that do that, because it was such a fantastic, amazing idea. And they got that idea from listening to feedback and taking it to heart. And that is how you do good security. Like, you dev and ops people, you're my customer. I'm a security person. I am here to serve you. And when I remember that and I listen and hang on every word of your feedback, that's how I do better work. And so please share. What else does it mean? It means please participate in security activities if we have them. So if there is an incident with one of your apps, I need your help. You are the expert at this. You built it. You support it every day. Without you, how can I perfectly respond to an incident? Or how can I do the best work I can without you helping? Threat modeling. You have the best ideas. Software developers, you're all hackers. Just no one told you yet. Security sprints. So that means a part of your project schedule, a whole sprint that is just for fixing security bugs or doing other security activities. Please don't just fix all the other bugs. Please fix our bugs. So we need you to show up for us. And the last thing, which I'm going to say, well, hopefully you take a screenshot of this, is that I want security to become a part of the definition of quality for every single person at every single IT shop around the world. That is what I want. It's very, very important to me. And the security teams cannot do it without you. And so with that, let's go to the third way, continuous learning. Now I wanted to make a cheesy ASCII art thing like I did with the other ones, but instead I'm going to say full circle because I just didn't know how to show that in a nice way. I'm not an artist, but I try. So continuous learning means allocating time for the improvement of your daily work. It means creating rituals that reward risk-taking and experimentation and trying harder to do better. I know it sounds nuts, but I do this at my own company, and we create training, and we are like constantly trying new ideas and seeing like how many students like that. Did students think it was bad or good? Like, you can apply this, like bettering and bettering and bettering yourself, experiment, watch, iterate, iterate, iterate until it's better and better and better. And you can do that with anything that you are building. So what does this mean for security? It means we need to allocate time for the improvement of the daily security work of dev and ops. I need to make it easier for you. I need to make it more automatic or automated. I want to make it faster. I want to make it the least amount of effort, least amount of friction as possible, so that you actually go along with my evil plan, which is to make secure software, right? It means us creating rituals that reward teams that do well with security, that are doing the things we want, instead of just being, the people that show up and say like, you did a bad job, we're upset with you. Actually say nice things. What, a security team that says nice things? There's just, for security, it means us teaching dev and ops whenever we can. Every single moment is a teaching moment. And this talk is focused specifically on dev and ops. I have a sister talk to this talk where I just focus on what security needs to change, and I keep wanting to tell you all the stuff, but I'm going to try hard not to and focus on dev and ops like I'm supposed to. So what does this mean for you? It means if you get offered security training, please say yes and show up and take it. It's really expensive to hire in a trainer, so please show up if your security team pays for that. You can also train yourself. So at the end, I'm going to give a bunch of free resources. There's tons and tons of cool free things on the internet. I just released a free course on our academy about how to scan web apps, specifically with a dynamic scanner, so that people can know how to do it, because it's not that hard once you've seen, you see a little lesson and then so you can train yourselves. It's is there a lot of crap on YouTube that is not very good? Yes. But I'm going to share a bunch of things that are really awesome, including how to find a professional mentor. Ooh, wait, one more. When you fix something, please share that information widely. So let's say, you had a penetration tester come in and they found this super weird bug. Save that with share it with everyone. Tell everyone. I remember when I was a programmer, I had been accessing a database and I forgot to close my connection, and then it was in a recursive loop, and then I crashed everything, and that sucked. And so I was telling everyone, I'm we should use the using phrase instead of doing open close, because using will close itself, right? And a bunch of the devs were no, I just remember to close things. I'm did you know that we're not perfect? They're well, maybe you make mistakes, but I'm fine. And so I had to show them, this is the damage that I caused by forgetting to close one thing. And luckily it was in dev. But the point is when we share failures and then how to avoid them in the future, especially if it's from peer to peer, that really helps. So if the security team's telling you this is bad because of this, it's not the same if it's the person that sits next to you who you work with all the time. So please share widely if you have found a bug or you have fixed a bug and how you did it. So what else does this mean? It means that if the security team is doing security activities, not just giving training, but sometimes we do tabletop exercises or simulations of real life security emergencies. If you're invited, please attend. It can mean doing a threat modeling session, whiteboarding, just going through security requirements with you. We need you to show up because we can't do anything useful without you. If you work somewhere now, ask your security team for metrics. So security teams got all these tools, are scanning all the things. A lot of us forget. You can crunch all that data into Excel or some other tool, right? There's many, many different spreadsheet tools. Crunch it all in there and then tell the team, these are your top 3 problems that we keep finding in that app. Do you want us to give you training on those 3 things? Do you need help with those 3 things? The security team should be analyzing this from an organization perspective, but you can ask for this data. And if they have it, hopefully they'll share it with you so you can do better And hopefully they'll show you after your efforts, like, look, we're not finding that bug at all anymore. Like, wow, that's amazing. And the last one I'm going to talk about, which I'm going to talk about a few times, which is whenever you do a post-mortem, like on a project or a security incident or whatever, it must be blameless. So it's not Alice's fault. You know, Alice is the worst, she did this. Or Bob's fault, you know, he forgot this, he always forgets. It's not a person's fault usually. It's almost always that a security safeguard was missing or broken, a policy did not cover that, or a policy was broken and it was broken because the person needed to get their job done, or some other thing that's actually systemic. Like, why did they make this insecure code thing? We've never given them any security training ever. We have no tests that looked for that. So it's like, there's actually all these other things that are wrong where we didn't support this person, and then that's how that happened, right? We didn't have any checks. And so try really hard to perform always blameless postmortems because life will be better. And so I want to talk about security. Oh, let's give you a second more. So this is the last photo slide, I believe, but there's going to be a whole bunch of resources. So we want security to become a part of DevOps, and that means culture change. That means culture change a lot for the security team, but also for Dev and Ops. So we don't want to be the people who say no anymore. We want to be the people who are right there alongside you, supporting you in you getting us all to the finish line securely. So one thing we can do is we can celebrate wins, right? So if you pass a penetration test, if you make it through a security pipeline, like the long, intense testing I was talking about that doesn't release anywhere, if there's a security incident and you helped us handle it well, if you release a whole bunch of security fixes, like you do a security sprint, I feel this deserves pizza. So let's celebrate instead of just saying when we've done a bad job. Let's try to work more closely together. Like if you're having a project kickoff meeting, invite a member of the security team so that everyone knows who they are and who to talk to, right? I know right now we're not allowed I know like sometimes we watch TV and it's like, oh my gosh, that person's going so close to that other person and they're not wearing a mask. Oh no, because of the pandemic. But imagine it's safe to be near other humans. Like, let's work more closely. It's not as hard as we think. It's just the first steps that are hard. Like I said, we don't want to blame specific people for specific things. It's usually not a person that messed up and did a bad job. Usually what's happening is that, you know, it's something within our organization. It's so rare that it's actually a person who's just incompetent. It's usually all these different things that collided together to put them in this impossible situation, which is how the thing happened. The last thing in this part is that you could become a security champion. So I picked her because I felt she looked like a badass. You could become the champion on your team of the cause of security. You could be that person who basically reads all the security books, who asks the security questions, who shows up to the lunch and learns, who attends the meetups. You're that person that's super interested. And if you go and introduce yourself to the security team, they would be complete fools not to completely encourage you and send you stuff and just keep feeding that energy that you have. Because security champions, you are the people, you're our eyes and ears when we are not there. You're the person that spread our message and sang our praises. And so you can become a security champion. And I have so many talks and things about it, but let's just leave that at that for right now, that you can become a security champion and it's awesome and you should do it. And so now I'm going to do a call to action. And so I want all of you to promise to yourself. So usually I'm in person and then I make everyone put up their right hand and promise. But because we're